time present and emerging, and always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Always was, always will be
Aboriginal land.
always was, always will be.
Aboriginal land.
For Palestinians, we are the indigenous population of that land. And because we are the indigenous population, we have been subjected to extreme violence. The world is finally seeing the type of violence that Palestinians experience under the Israeli state on its screens, in its social media feed. This has not been the case for decades and decades. As a Palestinian woman, I have a long history of family members incarcerated. I have family lore stories of Palestinian, my own uncles and great-great-grandfather and great-uncles fighting the British, resisting British oppression, leading the revolt in 1936, and being incarcerated and arrested because they were fighting for their own liberation. We have stories of our own families who were incarcerated in 1948, if not murdered, in 1967, in 1971, 73, 76, in the first Intifada, in the second Intifada, in the current regime under the apartheid state. There is not one Palestinian who has not experienced the story of their own family members arrested. I talk about sometimes my grandfather when I come out on the stage because it's one of the most important people who was formative in my understanding of what it means to be Palestinian. My grandfather was a political prisoner. He was incarcerated by the state of Israel because he refused to silence his voice. They arrested him on the charge of inciting dissent against the state of Israel. And his idea of dissent was writing for freedom, helping organize community collectives for Palestinian prisoners and youth being targeted by the Israeli state during the first Intifada. For those of you who may not know, the first Intifada was the first example of Palestinian civil resistance against the state of Israel, where it was a spontaneous emergence of everyday people standing against the state. People had had enough, and things were extremely violent in that point. We were heavily incarcerated, controlled, not allowed to move between our towns. Quite a few of us had been expelled, and there was an upswelling within people themselves against this. It was particularly poignant because, I don't know if some of you know, but April 17th in 1974 is the day where Palestinian prisoners were held in custody. And it was the first time that Palestinians were released in a prisoner exchange with the state of Israel. And so we commemorate it every year. But Palestinians have continued having to have our families incarcerated and fighting for them to be released. So my grandfather happened to be one of the people arrested during the second Intifada as a political prisoner. And he happened to also be one of the people who, during the Oslo Accords, was released in part of the prisoner exchange system. And the only reason he was released was because he was so sick that they weren't expecting him to survive anyway for much longer, due to their inhumane treatment of him and every prisoner. The reason I mention this is because it has not changed. It hasn't changed if it's only gotten worse. Right now we have over 9,700 Palestinians abducted. And we use the language abducted because the majority of Palestinians in those prison systems have no charge. They're being held for months, even years, without charge. They're being held and tried through military courts, through a system that 99% of the time it rules against them and incarcerates them. They incarcerate children, they incarcerate women and young men and old men. They do not discriminate. There are currently over 350 children in Israel's military prisons, who have no charge against them and being held. And one of the most concerning we hear coming out of it And this is something when you have family members who've been incarcerated, so just so you're aware, every single one of my uncles has been incarcerated on my mother and father's side. My own father was incarcerated. My grandfather was incarcerated. My cousins have been incarcerated. At least 4 of my cousins were incarcerated when they were children. This is a very well experience for a very well-known experience for Palestinians. Over 40% of the civilian population has been incarcerated. Just to make this very clear. So when we talk about Palestinian prisons, we don't talk about it like it's a cultural shame. Like it's something we should be ashamed about, that you have family in prison. We talk about it as an experience of resistance. Because that is what the state does. It targets you. You have a voice, it targets you. They think you may have a voice, they target you. It does not matter. They do not discriminate. So when we stand up here today, we stand up in pride for our families and our members in our community. But right now, the stories that are coming out from our families and from it's in the news is horrifying. We've known that the Israeli state uses sexual violence and rape and torture against Palestinian prisoners. We've known these stories. But the rate in which they have now institutionalized the use of rape and the use of sexual violence and torture against innocent civilians has expanded and exploded in the last 2-3 years. Out of the 59 prisoners that were released recently, 57 of them reported that they were sexually assaulted and raped. 57 of the 59. And when we talk about that, we're talking about men and women soldiers engaging in sexual violence and torture. We recently had a young child who had been tortured by Israeli soldier where cigarette burns were lit out onto their body. A toddler, a child, a baby. The Israeli state looks at us as if we're subhuman, that our bodies are expendable. And now as Israel has passed its recent law that they're approving the hanging and execution of Palestinian prisoners, let's understand what that means. There is no due process. As we said, it's an apartheid system. A military court rules you. A lot of the time these decisions are made in under 30 minutes. You do not have proper representation. Half the time, most of the time, it's in a language you do not understand. And Israel has said that they will hang us in the Knesset. They sat there and celebrated the fact that they will be murdering and executing innocent civilians who they have abducted. And our government has said nothing. Absolutely nothing. We have Palestinians, like for example Marwan Barghouti, a very famous Palestinian political prisoner, who has been recently stories emerging that he's been targeted and beaten up and denied medical aid in the prison system, who's been incarcerated for 20-30 years. It's people like that who will be the victims of Israel's new law. And we're consistently victims of the Israeli state, whether it's through their genocide in Gaza, their ethnic cleansing in the West Bank, their occupation, their annexation, their apartheid system. We're consistently forced in being their victims. But you will find, as Palestinians, that we don't accept that narrative. We are not your victim. So you may incarcerate our bodies, you may shackle us, you may torture us, but that has not stopped us from resisting and speaking out. They may hold our bodies, but they cannot control our mind, our heart, our will, our solidarity, our resistance. You cannot control that. So when you stand with Palestine, think about those prisoners, those abductees. Think about them. Because they are also resisting the Israeli state. They are trying to survive. And that is something the Israeli state tries to control, your very human will to survive. We see that in Gaza very, very clearly. And do not think this is not happening in the West Bank. It is. Now Palestinians cannot even access their lands for the yearly harvest. They haven't been able to for years. My own family hasn't been able to access their land for the last 10 years. They put a fence across it that we can't cross. And if we try to cross it, they'll shoot us.
Shame.
Every aspect of our lives is controlled by them, and yet, when you talk to a Palestinian, they look at what's happening out here in Melbourne and around the world. They hear that we have people in solidarity with us, that people come out into the streets, and I know it has been 3 years of us coming out almost weekly. And yet, we see the goodwill of every single one of you, unfazed. And we're inspired by it. So when I speak to my family tonight, and I talk to them about this protest, I will tell them that people came out, yet again. And they weren't silent, and they weren't cowed. And they heard our stories. So please, if you'd like to hear about, for example, Murad Barghouti, please jump on the Free Palestine Melbourne page. We have a campaign for him, particularly. But also, please read up about their stories. There are so many. And I'm not going to go through their names right now, because I think it's an onus on every single one of us to actually learn about Palestinians and their stories. I don't want to be here telling you it. I want you to be learning it yourself and come and talk to me about it. Because I would love to learn about my fellow countrymen together with you. So thank you everyone for coming out. I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Give me a moment, because I do not want to butcher her name. Meriki Onus, who is part of the Gunai Gunjitmara tribe. If I did say that wrong, I do apologise. I tried practicing. She is an organiser for Warriors of the Aboriginal Resistance and Invasion Day protests, and she's also on the board of APAN and is committed to the global fight for First Nations justice. Please give her a warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I had a whole speech written, but after hearing that, I wanted to honour my cousin who died in custody in 2022. So first I'll introduce myself. I acknowledge that we're standing on Wurundjeri Woi country today, and I just want to thank the organisers for having me. My name is Meriki Onus, and I'm from the Gunai and Gunditjmara people. I organise Invasion Day rallies, and occasionally now with the Warriors of the Aboriginal Resistance. I used to be on the board of APAN. Recently I finished an election and to stand on the first People's Assembly with Galangwal after we achieved getting our treaty last year. Before I go into my speech, I just wanted to honour my cousin Joshua James Kerr. A 32-year-old Aboriginal man who was Gunai, Gunditjmara, Yorta Yorta. He left behind a legacy of love for family, community and creativity. His life was tragically cut short August 10, 2022 at the Port Phillip prison, echoing the experience of many blackfellas who suffer at the hands of the Australian system. Joshua was taken away from his mother at a very young age and was in and out of 40 different foster care placements. Aboriginal children and Aboriginal people are targeted from birth to be taken away from our families and communities. This is a deliberate act of colonialism, and incarceration and child removal is a core pillar of colonialism to take us away from exercising our self-determination. So thank you, and I just wanted to dedicate today's speech to Joshua James Kerr. Australian values. This week I opened my social media and witnessed a growing white settler man pinning a 13-year-old Aboriginal girl to the ground on public transport in WA. He then allegedly picked her up and slammed her in the seat where she hit her head, and he pinned her down as she screamed, "I'm not resisting, I'm not resisting." It's alleged that he groped her chest and she hit her head very hard against the train wall as he manhandled her. He appeared to be twice her size, and allegedly this man is an off-duty police officer. Australia is littered with many similar stories of how Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, men, women, children, siblings, families are treated by the colony, all in a deliberate ploy to exclude us from practicing our self-determination with our families on our country. Children are locked up in adult prisons, tortured, killed, humiliated and subjugated in Dondale, Cherry Creek and around the country. Raise the Age is wound back, and we know who that's to target, and ban spit hood lifted, so then now they can use torture devices in some states in this country. It's no secret that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are the highest incarcerated people in this land. And this week we acknowledge and mark 35 years since the Royal Commission into Black Deaths in custody. 630 people have died since. No one held responsible, no convictions, and many of the recommendations go unignored. Some of the names to be read out: Stephen Lee Nixon, Jeffrey Winmar, Auntie Tanya Day, Kumanjai Walker, Kumanjai White, Miss Dew and Joshua Kerr, and many, many more. These are not just names and statistics, these are our families and our communities who we wish were home with us today. No justice, no peace. Israeli values. Since 1967, more than 1 million Palestinians have been detained by the Israeli occupation in Israeli prisons. Prisoners include women, children, Palestinian rights activists and politicians. The total number of prisoners today, 9,300. Female prisoners, 72. Children prisoners, 350. Administrative detainees, 3,358. These are not just statistics. These are human beings with hopes and dreams and families, just like every single one of us who stand here today. And I want to say that I stand in solidarity with every single Palestinian prisoner, and I show that solidarity today. These numbers paint a picture of the ongoing systematic oppression of that Palestinians face daily at the hands of occupying forces. Gaza, who are not included in those statistics, Gaza operates in many ways like missions for our people, where we're forced to live within the bounds of the rules of the colonial rule, controlled and kept away from our family, stopped from practicing culture, were often killed, our language stolen. I grew up on one of these missions. And the way that I see that Gaza operates today, with walls around 2 million people and the gross bombing and genocide that we're happening today, it's not the same, but the principles are the same. What is happening to Palestinian people is what's happening to blackfellas. The principles of the expansion of the British Empire. We are the exotic outposts from West Asia to the South Pacific. The uncomfortable truth is that Australia is the Israel of the South Pacific. And we must continue to build solidarity between blackfellas and Palestinians. Our power is within our numbers. Our power is when we continue to build our movements together. Incarceration is to suppress our self-determination, and we must support each other's self-determination. I call on everyone here today to please join our movement in Together for Treaty and support us and help us protect treaty through the state election. I know that there are many criticisms of the Victorian Treaty, but this is our exercise of self-determination, and our people overwhelmingly support the treaty. The Liberal Party has revealed that it plans to abolish the treaty within 100 days. So please, I implore you to join Together for Treaty at togetherfortreaty.org. We're going to need everyone to stand with us through this next election so we can keep our self-determination and build on it for our peoples in the future. Before I close out, I just want to really thank every single one of you for coming out today and maintain the resistance and continue to build together. And thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, Mariki. Big shukran. Big round of applause for Mariki, everyone. When you have lived your entire life under colonization, you recognize that every step in the right direction is an achievement and is progress. Every little step towards liberation, every little step towards decolonization is progress and is an achievement for all of us. Not just for First Nation justice, but for justice broadly. So from all of our rivers to all of our seas, this land always was and always will be
Aboriginal land.
Always was, always will be
Aboriginal land.
Always was, always will be
Aboriginal land.
From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
from the sea to the river.
Palestine will live forever.
Thank you, everyone. I want us to acknowledge the hard work and the immense effort that First Nation people on this land have done for decolonization and for the movement for justice. And I want us to really support all of the initiatives that aim to progress the situation and the conditions for First Nation people on this continent. There's no effort that is too small, no effort that is too big. Our role as non-Indigenous allies, as migrants on this stolen land, as settlers, is really to support and back every initiative that the Indigenous people, the custodians of this land, put forward. So thank you once again for all of your work, Mariki, and thank you for all of the generosity that we have really witnessed in the last 3 years from First Nation people, from First Nation organizers, from First Nations elders. The embrace that they have offered us is really invaluable. And our cause, the Palestinian cause, the broader movement for justice wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for their support. The parallels and the similarities between how settler colonialism operates, be that on this stolen land or in Palestine, are really stark. Thinking about the incarceration rates, the disproportionate percentage of Indigenous people incarcerated on this land as well as in Palestine, it's very similar, right? And the reason that people are targeted, that Indigenous people are targeted, has nothing to do with what they have done or what they have not done. Regardless to what Palestinians do in Palestine, regardless to what mode of operation or what mode of resistance they choose, from organizing on campus, on university campus, to cultural boycotts, to political activism. Every mode of resistance has been targeted. The fact that Palestinians exist on their land is a problem to the Israeli settler colonial project. And this is why we have mass numbers of Palestinians incarcerated without trial, under administrative detention. They're tried in military courts. Big numbers of these people, of the Palestinians that are held captive in Israeli prisons, are children. They are held in prison under military courts simply for throwing stones or actually just being in the streets, just going about their normal life. Children can get up to 20 years in prison for throwing a stone in Palestine, for throwing a stone at a tank. The Palestinian prisoners have always been a central part of the Palestinian resistance movement. They are not dormant, they are not inactive. Since their imprisonment, they have always organized internally under the Israeli prison system. From strikes, to hunger strikes, to education, they have developed a massive, a very structured, complex system of education where elder leaders, Palestinian leaders, actually teach younger generations. Many of them actually study and graduate and get their masters and PhDs under Israeli prison. They have always kept freedom up front, right, and center in their struggle. They have always attempted to break through the prison, to break through the very violent system that continues to subjugate, abuse, and inflict violence to the point of murder on them and their families. So we cannot talk about Palestinian resistance without talking about the resistance that Palestinian prisoners have been leading for decades. I would like to invite the next speaker. Our next speaker is a Palestinian activist, documentary film producer who has worked heavily on prisoners' rights. Mohammed Babai from Yafa will share with you his experience and his knowledge in terms of all of the conditions that Palestinian prisoners have been subjected to. I would like for each and every one here to give him a big round of applause, a warm welcome to Mohammed.
Palestinian prisoners are dying in torture camps in Palestine. It's not prison anymore, it's a torture camp. And they are dying while we're speaking right now. Part of my job as a filmmaker, documentary filmmaker, I met many prisoners before the genocide and post-genocide. And I remember I met girls, boys, women and men, young boys, age of 12, 14, 15, 16, and they were all prisoners. I remember one time I met Layla from Jalazun, a refugee camp in Ramallah, and she was sent to prison at the age of 15 or 16. And when she got to prison, at that time, for girls, when they get into prison, they put them with the adult women in the same wing. And at the same time, some women rebelled against their conditions. So the prison administration sent them to the notorious Damon prison in Haifa. So that's how Layla, when they got into prison, she was alone, not in the cell, alone in the wing. There's no one with her for almost 6 months. So that was her first experience in Israeli prison. Then at the same time, I met another prisoner who was on a hunger strike. It was the day, 80 days of hunger strike. He was more than 3 months on a hunger strike. And at that time, he transferred to Israeli hospital. And I was beside his bed for for a long time, and I was watching him, how he was in pain, how he was dying every day. We thought that he was gonna die, and he refused to give up. And one evening, I remember 8 prison guards came to hospital and kicked us out. At the time, his wife was there and 8-year-old daughter was there. They kicked us out, and they said they decided to have dinner, 8 of them, in his room. But they were full. They didn't know that he is resilient. He had a big faith. He didn't want. They couldn't break him, and he won. He was released after that, after 103 days. And I remember his wife all the time, 24/7, was there for him. And his 8-year daughter. I remember when the guard was at the entrance of the room, she used to shout at him to release his father. So also the family experienced they're in prison, the hunger strike. And that was before the genocide. I met many Palestinians who were on hunger strike and many prisoners. After the genocide started, Israeli apartheid regime started mass arrest of Palestinians. And there was a mass arrest of Palestinians all over Palestine, not only in the West Bank, also in 48. And he's a friend of mine, he was arrested for 5 days because they wanted to know what there is in his head, what he's thinking. He was arrested just to know what he was thinking about. He didn't post, he didn't talk, he didn't say anything. At the same time, they arrested another activist from Bethlehem refugee camp. He was late 50s. He was grabbed from his house at midnight in front of his daughter, beating him all the way to prison. When he reached prison, he was undressed, naked, beating him. And when you watch them on Instagram or Facebook, it's very hard. But when you sit in front of them, look into their eyes, how they talk, and I'm talking about an old man talk about sexual abuse, about how they tortured him every day. He was in his cell for 24 hours, except 15 or 10 minutes. They took him out to eat once a day. And I'm not talking about food, I'm talking about a liquid, a smash. He didn't even know what he was eating. They used to put the plate in the corner of the room, and they were obliged to get out the room on 4, like animals, and to go to the corner and eat with their mouth or with their hand. There were no fork or knife or spoon. That was how they treated him. And he told me he wished death every day. He said, I wish not to wake up or to die every day. But he told me it was nothing comparing what was happening on the other wings of prison, where the Gazan people were there. They used to beat them, torture them 24/7, even worse than the people of the West Bank. He used to watch the prison guard switching shifts by beating the Gazan prisoners. He used to see them when they went out of their cell, very tired, sitting and taking their breath because they were very tired of beating the prisoners of Gaza. Of course, he was released after 6 months, and I could see in his eyes how angry he is. But he never lost his faith. He never gave up. He continued to work. He continued to work in the camp. He continued to speak out against the occupation. And after that, in the same camp, I met many kids. Actually, all the West Bank. During my documentary about kids arrest in the West Bank, I met dozens of kids. I'm talking about kids between the age 11, 12, 13, 14 that was arrested. I'm talking about around 3,000 kids a year that was arrested. You need to know, until between age 12 and 14, a Palestinian kids in the West Bank, not in Jerusalem, only in the West Bank, they can be jailed for up to 6 months. After age of 14, they can jail for a lifetime. So, and I went to Ofer camp, the military camp. I saw that they put them in trailer, And you see the judge is a military judge, a military prosecutor, and the guy who translates is a soldier too. Of course, they don't never translate them exactly what they need to hear. And when I met the kids, most of the kids were telling me about their experience and how, of course, all of them, they talked about that how they were strong and they tried to play the macho, but when I met an adult prisoner, because when they go into prison, an adult prisoner, Palestinian prisoner, is in charge of the kids. And I met one of them, and he told me all the kids, when they reach prison, at night they cry and they shout, they want their mom and their mother, and some of them wet their beds. But of course, they didn't tell me that, and I knew that from the other prisoners. So imagine how traumatized are the kids when they go back. They never go back to the society. They never go back to school. They never go back to their normal life. So, and this is only the tip of that. What I'm telling you now. I don't have a lot of time. I can talk all day about that. But one thing that I know, and you need to know, that the Palestinian prisoners, they are very resilient. They never give up. Especially now, of course, they can't go on hunger strike. By the way, after when the genocide stopped, they can't go on hunger strike. They can't use the only weapon that they use against the apartheid regime. The last one who was on hunger strike, Khadir Adnan, he died in prison, and they kept his body. By the way, Palestinian prisoner, after he died, he still do his time. They keep his body in prison. So I'm honored to be here and talk about them and speak out. And it's very important that you stand for us, for Palestinian prisoners. And thank you for coming today. Thank you.
Thank you, Muhammad. A little fun fact, Muhammad actually worked in Jaffa, and my grandmother happens to be from Jaffa. And I remember going down to one of the main squares there, and I had just met Muhammad before I'd gone to Palestine, and I remembered some of the stories you were talking about when you were at home. And now every time I see him, I remember him and my grandma in that particular square. So if you have a chance to speak to him, he's absolutely wonderful. Not just an amazing Palestinian and staunch documentary maker, but also just a wonderful human being. So I just thought I should say that. And I will say that I know that we are having a protest here, but I feel like I know a lot of you already because we've been coming out together in these streets for almost 3 years. And so a lot of us have built relationships, we're organising together, we're getting to know each other, and we've built a community. And we've built a community for Palestine here in Melbourne, and we know what we stand for. We stand for justice, human rights, peace, solidarity, and we believe in fighting for a future for our own children and every other child that is free from war and persecution. And so, please count each other as friends and family and a community, because we are. And one of the hardest things is seeing what has been happening in the media in terms of some of the repression that's being faced against the Palestinian community and its supporters. And the reason I mention it is there is a petition going around the crowd today. Some Free Palestine Melbourne members are sharing it around. Please feel free to sign it. It is a petition to raise against the state, particularly in Victoria, around laws and attempts to repress pro-Palestinian voices and repress the community that we have built together. So please sign the petition, but also look at how you can get involved if you'd like to. But I think it's extremely important that after almost 3 years of coming out in these streets, that we don't let others tell us what our community is about. And we don't have the state and the media try and paint us with a brush that has got nothing to do with what we stand for and what our values are about. And we know exactly what they are. And fighting for Palestinian liberation and justice and for basic human rights is not something that needs to be repressed. It is something that should be emulated everywhere in this state, in this country and across the world. And we know that we are not alone. We know that we are part of a global movement. A global movement. And yet, interestingly enough, we have seen every single state try and repress that voice. And yet it is everyday people who have fought back and have fought for a Palestinian voice and for our voices and our narratives and our stories and our history to be heard. And it's your voices who make sure that, in fact, Palestinian prisoners can be seen. That we're not just a statistic. We're not just a number. We are people. We're bloody human beings. Anyway. Our next speaker is Mahdi. As we know, the Israeli state and America have waged a violent war in Iran and in Lebanon and are supplanting and progressing its violence across the region. So in solidarity, we have Mahdi, who is an Iranian Australian who grew up in Australia with deep ties to his Iranian heritage. Mahdi's community has been directly impacted by the ongoing bombardment in Iran, and he speaks to us today about his personal convictions, his perspective, and as well his solidarity, having studied Palestinian Middle Eastern politics. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, everyone. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respect to the elders past and present. Since 1967, before most of us in the crowd were even born, more than 1 million Palestinians have been detained in Israeli occupational prisons. 1 million people. That's not just a number. That's 1 million stories, 1 million families torn apart, 1 million children who grow up with their parents in prison. 1 million people who committed no crime except being Palestinian on Palestinian land. Who are those prisoners? They are children, they are women, doctors, teachers, poets, politicians and rights activists. They are imprisoned, tortured, forcibly separated from their families and held in conditions that violate every single standard, human rights standard we claim to uphold today. And what does the world do? What does Australia do? Nothing. By doing nothing and by not intervening, by not sanctioning Israel for these breaches, Australia is complicit in what amounts to significant violations of multiple international human rights laws. That's not my opinion. That's the assessment of multiple human rights organizations worldwide. And just 2 weeks ago, on the 30th of March, the Israeli Knesset passed what they call death penalty for terrorist law. It authorizes death by hanging for Palestinians, death by hanging for Palestinians in the West Bank convicted by murder. Not Israelis, just Palestinians. Israelis can't receive the death penalty under this law. And when it passed, what happened? What did the Israeli ministers do? They opened a bottle of champagne. Let that sink in. They disgracefully popped champagne at the prospect of hanging Palestinians. That's not a justice system. This is just a system built to eliminate a people. And while Palestinians are being imprisoned and now sentenced to death, what happens to those who remain free? In Gaza, we have witnessed what the International Court of Justice itself has called it a genocide, that over 70,000 Palestinians killed, entire family trees erased, hospitals bombed, aid blocked, children starving while the world watches. Children. In the West Bank, illegal settlements continue to expand, built on stolen land, protected by Israeli soldiers while Palestinian villages are demolished and families are expelled from the homes their grandparents built. This is a military superpower funded and armed by the United States, systematically dismantling an entire people's right to exist. And it doesn't stop at Palestine. Lebanon, a country that has been invaded, bombed and destabilized by Israel repeatedly over the years, and again recently. Thousands of Lebanese civilians killed, infrastructure destroyed, a nation brought to its knees. The same bombs, the same impunity, the same American diplomatic cover at the United Nations every single time a resolution for ceasefire comes to vote. And now my country, Iran. In June 2025, Israel launched what is now called the 12-Day War. Over 1,000 people killed, 4,000 wounded. Ordinary Iranians, people who had no say in any of this, paid with their lives. And then on February 28, 2026, just weeks ago, the United States and Israel launched a new wave of strikes on Iran during active peace negotiations. They bombed us while we were sitting at the negotiation table talking. They didn't just strike military sites. They didn't just strike government buildings. They struck civilian infrastructure, medicine research centers, bridges, and they also struck a girls' primary school in Minab. Shajara Tayyibeh Elementary School. It was 10:45 in the morning. Children were in class. The school was struck once. The principal gathered the surviving children into a prayer room and called parents to come and collect them. She was trying to keep them safe. Then it was struck again, then again. 3 strikes on a primary school filled with little children. 168 people were killed, most of them being students and children. And then there's a boy, Makan, whose name his family still cries out. Since the moment these bombs were dropped, he has not been found. The only proof he ever stood there in that school, a torn piece of shirt. So let me ask you something. What does a Palestinian child behind bars in an Israeli military prison, a Lebanese family under bombardment, and a little Iranian girl who never made it home from school have in common? They're all children, and they are all considered acceptable losses by the same powers, the same government that lecture the world about democracy, human rights, and the rules-based international order. Hundreds of children have been killed across Iran and the Middle East since the latest escalation began. That's on top of the tens of thousands of children killed in Gaza, on top of the children detained in Israeli prisons, on top of children of Lebanon. When does it end? It ends when you and I, when we stop being silent. It ends when governments like Australia stop hiding behind diplomatic language and start calling this for what it is: illegal, criminal, and a crime against humanity. I, as an Iranian Australian, I grew up here. This is my home. And I'm standing here today because silence is complicity. The Palestinian prisoner sitting in an Israeli jail right now, he's my brother, she's my sister. The child of Minab, she could have been my little cousin who never came home. We are not separate struggles. We are one struggle for dignity, for justice, for the rights of every single child, whether they're Palestinian, Lebanese, or Iranian. Every child deserves to grow up free. And I want to acknowledge something about this very moment. We are standing here today protesting stolen land on stolen land. The land beneath our feet belongs to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, the traditional custodians of this land whose sovereignty was never ceded. There is something deeply powerful and deeply painful about that, because we know what stolen land looks like. We know what dispossession looks like, and we know what happens when the world just looks away. The First Nation people of this country know that too, and their struggle and the Palestinian struggle are more connected than most people realize. And that both people criminalized, both displaced, both thought to forget and move on, but both are still standing. We stand with them as they stand for Palestine. Free Palestine, free Iran, free Lebanon. Always was, always will be.
Aboriginal lands.
Always was, always will be.
Aboriginal lands.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
From the sea to the river.
Palestine will live forever.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mahdi. As Palestinians, we want to extend our unconditional and unwavering solidarity to our brothers, sisters, and siblings in Iran, to our brothers and siblings, sisters in Lebanon, to anyone, any colonized people, any people who have had to bear the burden and the struggle against oppression, against colonization and occupation. As Palestinians, we will always stand in solidarity with the oppressed people. From the sea to the river,
Palestine will live forever.
from the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
we will always stand for freedom, for Iranians, for Lebanese, for Palestinians, for First Nation people. We will always stand against racism, fascism, and all of its manifestations. Be that settler colonialism, all forms of racism that takes different shapes and forms against the Palestinian people, against Iranians, Lebanese, and First Nation people on this land. Because this is who we are, as Palestinians, as people, as Arabs, as Muslims, as people who have fought and continue to fight against colonization. This is who we are. We stand in solidarity because these are the values that we were raised on. These are the values that the Palestinian resistance movement, the Palestinian movement for liberation, is built on. Our fight for justice is grounded in solidarity. And we know that our liberation is not complete unless all people are free. So freedom not just for Palestinians, freedom for Iran, for Lebanon, and justice for all people all over the world. The next speaker, I'm very proud to introduce the next speaker. She is a staunch sister who has, it's been a pleasure for me to work with her and to watch her grow and to watch her journey into organizing and into activism and into advocacy for Palestine. A sister who hails also from the village of my mother, my family as well, Sha'ab. We need to put Sha'ab on the map. No one knows what Sha'ab is. It's next to Akka. Everyone knows where Akka is, but Sha'ab, and it's a village who has produced many, many freedom fighters. Exhibit A, Raneem. Please welcome Raneem, everyone.
Thank you, Nora. And good afternoon all. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I acknowledge that I stand here as a settler of occupied land and that this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Last Friday marked Palestinian Prisoners' Day, a day dedicated to remembering and drawing the attention to the thousands of Palestinians who have been and continue to be illegally detained and tortured under the Israeli occupation. It is also a day to renew calls and mobilize efforts for their freedom and for the freedom of all people living under oppression. This year marks the 52nd anniversary of Palestinian Prisoners' Day, coming after 30 months of genocide in Gaza that has targeted all components of Palestinian society, further deepening the urgency and significance of this day. On this day, I can't help but think of a line from a Palestinian song and poem that opens with Min sijan Akka tulat janaza. From the prison of Akka, a funeral emerged. This line comes from a well-known Palestinian poem and song that commemorates 3 Palestinian revolutionaries who were executed by British authorities by hanging in Akka prison on June 17, 1930 for daring to resist the occupation. Today this song does not only recount history, it speaks directly to the present. The names have changed, the prisons have expanded, but the reality it points to has not moved. From the occupied land of Palestine, a funeral has emerged. This funeral is not solely as metaphor for grief. It describes and names a system that turns imprisonment into a continuous process of erasure. Our political prisoners are not only confined, they are removed from time, from public life, and from the conditions that make a person visible. This continuity reshapes how violence under occupation is understood. It is not experienced as a sequence of isolated attacks or arrests, but as a sustained system in which different forms of harm such as destruction, murder, displacement, imprisonment, and the erosion of basic conditions of life operate simultaneously and strategically. In that sense, the occupation prisons extends far beyond their walls. It reaches into homes, into memory, and into the basic rhythm of life. Every single Palestinian rightfully living in their homeland becomes a prisoner. And those that are put behind bars have sacrificed more than anyone else in a system built on extraction. Our prisoners are made to absorb injustice in its most concentrated form. They are removed entirely from the world in which they belong to. And this is why we honor and fight for them on this day and every day. If the system depends on silence, distance, and fragmentation, then the only moral response has to be to interrupt all three. So speak about the prisoners, name the structures, detention without trial, mass incarceration, collective punishment, solitary confinement, sexual abuse, denial of food and medication, and keep them in the public language so that they cannot be ignored. Document and share, amplify the names, the stories, the testimonies, make erasure impossible. Apply pressure where it has weight, support campaigns, legal efforts and organizations that are actively advocating for their freedom. Engage institutions, political representatives, professional bodies, and demand clear positions and accountability. Remember that systems persist when they are left unchallenged in the spaces that sustain them. Refuse normalization in everyday language and action. As we have repeated for the past few years in the ongoing genocide in Gaza, do not get used to the scenes. Do not normalize the scenes. And remember to be consistent. As long as the occupation exists, we exist. The revolution continues. Any effort in the Free Palestine and the broader justice and freedom movement that does not work towards the liberation of our prisoners is incomplete. There must be a clear and consistent commitment for their freedom. The freedom of Palestinian prisoners is a necessity. I could have stood here today and spoke to you about the number of Palestinians in prison, the stories, the mistreatment, the torture, the testimonies. But we are past the point where description is what's missing, and I refuse to stand here and turn our lives into material for persuasion, to beg that we deserve freedom. It is insulting to expect any Palestinian to continuously prove humanity through their pain and trauma to be believed. One death is already too many. One prisoner is too many. No prison of the occupying force has the right to exist. The occupation has no right to exist. We are already human enough, deserving of justice. As a Palestinian, I refuse to be turned into an object of pity. To quote Mariam al-Barghouti, a Palestinian journalist and researcher in Ramallah, while our reality may be tragic, we are not a tragedy. My role today is to speak clearly about what is needed, to keep the focus where it belongs, to demand freedom. It is my right to be heard without having to translate ourselves through our pain, to speak without having to justify why our lives matter. Before I hand the mic over back to our lovely MCs, I would like to thank every single one of you who have come out today. Those who have been showing up for the past 3 years, and those who have been here long before that. Your presence is powerful. Your voices carry weight. The fact that you continue to show up, to stand firm, to listen, to speak out and to care year after year is the reason why this movement endures. And no matter what it takes, no matter how long it takes, we will continue to be here. We will continue to show up. We will continue to keep speaking out and work towards freedom and liberation, because Palestine will be free, and that is a promise. Thank you.
Thank you, Naneem. Before I call our last speaker, I thought I would touch on something we probably haven't spoken about. And that is, when we talk about prisoners, we talk about the impact on Palestinians in the prison system. There is something we also don't talk about, and that the impact on the families. The impact on the mothers, the sisters, the daughters, the cousins, basically whole of society. When our men are incarcerated, and unfortunately the majority who are incarcerated are men, it is up to the women who have to hold up society. And it is up to the women who have to fight through and raise their children in their communities. Today I'm wearing, and this is not because I'm doing a shout out for my fashion, today I'm wearing a skirt, and it's quite symbolic. This was a skirt that was handmade by a women's collective in the First Intifada. And during that period there was a huge mass incarceration of men. And women got organised. And women formed collectives and sewing groups and language groups. And they started organising as political activists to resist the state. So while my grandmother and my aunties were sitting here and sewing fatris, they were actually organising protests. And they were organising missions to try and visit their families and their husbands and their children in the prison systems. And there is a whole culture and story and history around what women have achieved, but also what they've had to endure as they hold up our community and our society. And we are seeing that right now, where women are one of the biggest victims and children are the biggest victims in the genocide in Gaza and what is happening in the West Bank. Because Palestinians and our families are now forced in situations where we are starving, we're being dispossessed from our homes and lands, and it's not just that we have a whole civilian population who is homeless in Gaza, but we also have over 40,000 people made homeless in the West Bank now. As Israel proceeds to create its Greater Israel Project and try and annex the West Bank further and divide it, we have mothers and daughters trying to hold society together and trying to resist their own way. So I'd like to just take a moment to take a shout out to those women, because it's through their leadership and their stories that I get a chance to stand up on this stage, and I feel confident to speak to you today and talk about my family and their stories. It's through their leadership and their example. And don't be shy to tell me my skirt looks amazing, because I know it does. I love compliments about it. They work very hard to sew it, okay? And create this properly. But anyway, our next speaker, and this is extremely important because I know Nora touched on this as well. We are seeing Israel supplant its violence and projects further afield. And Lebanon has always been a target of Israel and its civilian population, but it has been especially brutal at the moment. So please welcome our next speaker and our final speaker before we march, Majid Isa. He's an Australian-born Lebanese man who's worked in education and social justice for 15 years, helping young people learn how to achieve social change. Let's give him a warm welcome.
Thank you.
Before you said anything, but now I don't want to compliment you because I was like, I'm complimenting
So before I commence, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land on which we gather. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And also want to thank every single one of you for coming down, showing your solidarity, your care, your love and support for each other, for Palestine, for Iran, for Lebanon, for Iraq. It's amazing to see, and I appreciate that so much, and I just want to let you know that. I'm a teacher. I've been teaching for about 15 years. I was raised by a family who I identify as teachers. They're truck drivers, shop owners, cooks, but they're all teachers to me because they taught me the most important lesson that you can learn as a human being, and that's who you are. Because as children, we learn. We learn through mimicking, we learn through imitation, and we learn through modeling. We learn all we need to know about the world and where we sit in that world through our nucleus, our family. What happens though when that human experience is robbed? When that nucleus is unable to set that foundation within the child? How does a 3-year-old reconcile that their family is no more because some genocidal maniac decided to carpet bomb their world, their nucleus? You can't reconcile that. Shame. You can't reconcile that. And the echo is that we aren't equal. We aren't seen as equal. We all start off with family. We all share the same values. Tradition, culture, care, language, faith. But we aren't seen as equal. How does a teenager from this diaspora reconcile with that? How do they navigate through a life, through the Western world, assimilate or meet the expectation of assimilation, and are looked at to thrive, to contribute to this country? How are they supposed to reconcile with that when they can see and they know that their land, their home, their tradition, their culture, their language, their law is being raped? How can they reconcile with that? How can any of us reconcile with that? So I can say, and I can do it all day, right? I can call shame all day. Shame on the Israeli genocidal regime. Shame on that US imperial circus. Shame on the Australian government for blindly and easily folding to pressure which cripples its own economy and its own people. Shame on the silence when noise is needed. Shame on apathy when action is needed. Shame on the occupation. But like most of us here, I work, I contribute, I pay taxes. I pay taxes, with that money goes directly back and bombs my home. How can I shame? How can I reconcile with that? Can't. That's the evil that we're fighting. And I come back to our teenagers, our young people. How do you reconcile that hopelessness? Because it's not. But they can't right now. They're expected to accept it, move on, and act as if nothing's happening. And that is the greatest travesty that is happening currently. The loudest, most influential voices are silenced due to despondency. It's fine not to be happy, just as long as you're not causing a ruckus. It's okay for your mates not to ask you how you're going, even though they know that your family and your home is currently under threat. It's okay, just don't make noise about it. That consistent dehumanization of our people reinforces that message. You are seen as the other. So I am grateful for this opportunity to speak, so I can talk directly to our young people. And all I want to say to you is keep talking. The paradigm is shifting. The rhetoric is shifting. We can see it through the narrative, through social media, through people questioning. Right now, for the past 3 years, what's happening, we can see there's a shift. Ride that shift. There's no way to spin it. More and more people are learning the truth, and it is your voice, your story, and your identity that continues that fight. Don't leave here feeling hopeless. It's not. But the fight we're fighting right now is not the same at home. It's not done with bombs and guns and bullets. It's done with understanding. It's done with the knowledge of truth, and it's done by knowing exactly who you are and where you sit in this world. Talk, create, move, get your story out there because it matters. We need more teachers. You are the teachers. You've got to teach everybody a lesson. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, everyone. I think Margin was in the right tone. Now we're going to be marching now, and I know everyone has come here for this march. Thank you, everyone, for standing here and listening to all our speakers. I am very well aware that's not what people's favourite thing is to do at a protest. We are here to be heard. We are here to be loud. And we want Melbourne to hear us. What do you think? That's right. So what are we going to do, people? We're going to shout. We're going to have our voices heard. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
And as we know, they're trying to ban that chant. They're trying to take it away from us. No, we won't let you. Because this is a chant for liberation, justice and peace. It is not about your violence and repression. So from the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free!
from the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free!
from the sea to the river,
Palestine will live forever!
from the sea to the river,
Palestine will live forever!
free, free Palestine,
Free, free Palestine!
free, free Palestine,
Free, free Palestine!
free, free Gaza,
Free, free Gaza!
free, free Gaza,
Free, free Gaza!
globalize the intifada. All right, everyone, let's get out on the streets.
Here you go. Did you? How's that? Colin? Just in case you're away, get more. Good experience for the band. Can we speak at the end of the rally? Yeah, okay. Oh, okay. We're going for a drink later on. Yeah. A lot of us are. All right. All right, yourself?
I saw you last night at the end of the road at the film.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. I was
I was too worried there wasn't as many people. A bit sad. Because he spoke so well at the campus. And I had no excuse for not going. I didn't really ask to go back. God, I would have gone anyway. Going to Nova and going anyway. But much watching it now than it was 2 years ago. Pardon? Yeah, I think it was. I think we had it as a fundraiser at the Nova. Something like that. In some ways, probably showed the budget, but last time it was spent in 2023, Lisa took us to that military court, and Gerard talked to us about it. We broke down and cried. And then we went to the prison. And while the woman was showing us around, they took us to the court, into the court. It was on the webinar on Wednesday night. So we had a very sad week.
Yeah, it's been a bit full on as well.
I
watched the Baguri film, yesterday, and there's another one.
Well, that's right. I saw all that's left.
Very sobering at the moment. Hey, how you going?
I'll let you get on with it.
Yeah, I just... Oh, lucky you. Whereabouts in Greece?
Just sad to go back to Lesbos. It's a beautiful island. I did go back in 2022. Yeah. September.
Presents.
Yeah. Do you want all the same colour or different colours, or are you going to do
green to black?
Are you going to grab the blue? Oh, the cake. I haven't had it, but I know it's delicious.
Can't find me.
out of Lebanon! Israel out of Gaza! Israel out of Lebanon! Israel out of Palestine! Israel out of Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! From the river to the sea! 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 From the sea to the river! From the sea to the river!
And forcibly displaced from their lands from 1948 until this day has the fundamental right to return to their homeland. I know that I will return.
I just walked past the pub and there's a super strong smell of weed. You can smell it, walk that way.
And we will return because Israel is crumbling. It's crumbling from within and it's crumbling from outside. We will return. And
Seems to have blocked the pathway. Maybe there's a cloud that was...
Hi, sorry, can I ask what's your setup? I'm really curious.
It's called a gimbal.
A gimbal?
Yeah, and the idea of it is that I can do this.
Oh, how cool is that?
And the camera just stays in this location.
Yeah, can I ask what mobile phone do you use?
This is the same thing. It's
a gimbal. Yeah.
And this is what they have to do towards the occupation and the prosperity of the USA and Israel. The situation is still getting worse and worse. Back in Gaza, West Bank, the prisoners, Lebanon, Iran, Syria, Yemen, getting worse and worse and worse. The best thing that we can do once a month, if we come to the street, we urge get your anything inside your control. Take up a focus on the morning. Get in your legs, come to the street. This is how you can bring everybody. It's how you do the world. There is still don't be afraid of intimidated by the laws. We born, I talk about myself, with fear. I managed to get rid of it when I'm a child. I've been attacked all my life, including in this country. And I don't care. Why? Because if somebody over there gives their life, that's what I give my life to. But I care about jail, definitely we don't care. Please, to every Palestinian, especially Palestinians, where the hell are you? This is your people, your country. Send the rest of the free people around the world. Once a month is not going to get too tired. We beg you to get out. Get out of your comfort. Do something to energy. We're losing our people, we're losing our work, we're losing our money, we're losing our kids. I got big things to all suffering. Here with me in this country. That's what people must see. This is enough, but I heard this message can go everywhere around. Thank you very much, guys. Free Palestine! Free!
long time no see.
I've been around, but I'm hopping on and off.
No, you guys are tired. That's not on. Are we tired? Can we be tired? Well, kind of yes, but also no, right? We are tired, but are we going anywhere? No. Right? We are not going anywhere. We have a very important mission to complete. as people who feel strongly and committed to values like freedom, justice, equality, decolonization, our job is not done. As long as there's one child, one Palestinian child, one Iranian child, one Lebanese child living under occupation cannot go to school safely, our job here is not done. We will continue as an anti-racist, anti-war, anti-genocide movement. We will continue to speak up for justice. We will continue to show up for Palestine. We will continue to show up for Lebanon and Iran. We will continue to show up for First Nation people on this continent. Because these are the core values of the Palestine Solidarity Movement. The global movement for Palestine is an anti-racist, anti-colonial movement. It's a movement that upholds values like justice, freedom, and equality, and decolonization. And we are proud to stand here today, almost 3 years. It's been almost 3 years, 2.5 years. 2.5 years of an ongoing genocide happening at the backdrop as we continue to live our lives normally around the world. Israel and the US, with the support of our government, the Australian government, have normalized genocide. They have normalized torture. Now bombing schools and hospitals is normal. Targeting children in tents is normal. Sexual abuse, tortures, we've all heard the horrifying testimonies from Palestinians, young Palestinians, children aged 13, 17, talking about being sexually abused by Israeli soldiers. This is now normal. Well, not on our watch. No, we cannot let this continue. We have responsibility as human beings, as parents, as educators, and just as normal people who believe that genocide is wrong. You don't have to be a Palestinian. You don't have to be Lebanese. You don't have to be Iranian. You don't have to be indigenous to understand and to accept that children deserve safety and security and freedom. It shouldn't be this hard to speak up against genocide and not having to worry about the repercussions or being punished for saying all children are equal. But sadly, this is the case. And we have different governments, different state governments, launching a massive, wide-scale attack on our freedoms, our rights, our liberties, and democratic rights on this continent.
I don't like it.
No one likes it. Do we like it?
No.
No. What are we going to do? We are going to continue to speak up. Not from one river to one sea, from all of our rivers to all of our seas. We all deserve freedom. From all of our rivers to all of our seas, every indigenous person, every person under occupation deserves justice. And this is why we're here. You guys have been phenomenal. For the last 2.5 years, we've walked shoulder by shoulder, we've marched together, we've signed petitions, we've spoke up, we've screamed, we've shouted, and we've celebrated the little wins as well, which is equally important. And we have achieved so much. And I know it's hard to see all of the things that we have achieved, given the monstrosity that we are facing. But every little thing that you do, that you have done and continue to do matters. And these pictures and images, they reach people in Palestine and gives them the spirit and the courage and the energy to continue with their sumud. Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Every little thing you do matters. Every conversation you have with your neighbor, with your friend, with the guy at the 7-Eleven, with the police officer, with the marshals, with everyone. Every conversation you have matters, and it moves and changes people. We have to continue. The people in Palestine are steadfast. The people in Lebanon are steadfast. The people in Iran are steadfast. But they cannot do this without our support here. We have so much. There's so many things that we can do. Endless things that we can do that actually bring us closer to liberation. And we must not seize any front. We must leave no stone unturned. We have to continue to advocate and speak up, and we have to continue to do this consistently for everyone. As a movement for liberation, the demands for the Palestinian people have always been clear. Ending the occupation, ending the siege, ending the apartheid regime, freedom for everyone, including Palestinian prisoners who are subjected to all torture, all forms of torture, and the right of return. The right of return. There are over 6 million Palestinians living in the diaspora or in refugee camps, denied their right to return home to their ancestral land. We will not stop until their rights are achieved. We will not stop until every Palestinian gets to reunite with their families and live in their homelands. We will not stop until every checkpoint in the West Bank is dismantled, until the apartheid wall is destroyed. And we will see this through. We will not stop until every Palestinian is free to go back and forth to work, something as no-brainer, right? Like we shouldn't worry about people going back to school, going back and, for education. But we do, because as Palestinian parents, we don't know what's going to happen, whether our children are going to be abducted by Israeli soldiers or not. So we will not stop until all Palestinians are free. All 14 million Palestinians, 2 million Palestinians in Gaza who have been living under siege for over 20 years, 3 million Palestinians in the West Bank, and 2 million Palestinians who are internally displaced in 1948 territories who remained on their ancestral lands. The Palestinian project is a project for unity. It's uniting and reuniting the Palestinians on their ancestral land. Any solution that fails to provide that kind of solvency to each Palestinian is insufficient. So we must continue to advocate for the rights of all 14 million Palestinians, because unless everyone is free, none of us is free. We have so many things coming up planned. We have the next big rally is going to be the Nakba rally. There has been announcement made on socials. Please follow all of the groups that you know, from Free Palestine Melbourne to Sit Intifada to Students for Palestine. Follow us on socials. Stay up to date with what's coming. You have been amazing, and it's been an honor to walk alongside all of you for the last 2.5 years. But we are not going anywhere. And when we're tired, we take breaks, because there's so many of us who will continue the fight for justice and liberation. From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
From the sea to the river,
Palestine will live forever.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. The 17th of May is the next big rally. We'll see you all on the 17th of May so that we can commemorate the Nakba and talk about all the forms and manifestations in which the Nakba continues to exist against the Palestinian people. Thank you so much.
All right. All right, we'll march it back. Can the drummers get to the front, please? Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! From the sea to the river! Palestine will live forever! Palestine will live forever!
Thanks everyone for following. Please sign the Mawa Bagudi petition. It's our current campaign, and see you at the next rally.